Alright, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and honestly, I don't feel like this is something that I would ever have to talk about if we lived in a normal world, man, but it seems like with some of the things that have been going on in like the last couple of years, I'm starting to think maybe we're living in like a simulation or something, bro, because like things just don't make sense anymore, right? Like, honestly, on my 2021 bingo card, I would never have had Nation of Israel has beef with ice cream company, right? Like, I didn't think that this was going to be something that we would even have to talk about. I mean, when I start considering that this is actually a topic in 2021, like, what am I going to be talking about in 2022 or 2023, right? I don't know. With that being said, though, there is kind of like a massive beef that's been building up between the Israeli government and Ben & Jerry's. Now, you probably know what Ben & Jerry's is. It is one of the biggest ice cream brands on the planet. I'm not sure. It may be the biggest. I really honestly don't know about the market share of ice cream companies. But Ben & Jerry's is a staple of the frozen aisle in the grocery stores, right? You know, all these different flavors with the funny names and stuff. Honestly, pretty good ice cream. I'm not going to lie. I do have some Ben & Jerry's down in the freezer. Definitely some pretty good shit, right? But they have said something that isn't good is the Israeli occupation of Palestinian territory, quote unquote. So a situation's kind of unfolding over this, and let's go ahead and just jump right into it. So I found an article from NBC News that kind of wraps everything up for us here because honestly, it's a messy situation, right? Like, it feels bad talking sometimes about like the Israel-Palestine conflict and stuff like that because not only is it such like a heated debate between people, but also it's very easy, I think, to spread misinformation about it because there's a lot of things that are like constantly happening that if you don't like read up on it very often, like you really can, I think, lose some of the context of what's going on. Ice cream has become a hot topic in Israel. Israeli officials have slammed Ben & Jerry's decision to stop selling ice cream in the Israeli-occupied Palestinian territory, accusing it of branding itself as anti-Israeli. Quote, the boycott of Israel reflects a complete loss of way, Prime Minister Naftali Bennett wrote on Monday on Twitter. Foreign Minister Yair Lapid called the decision a, quote, shameful surrender to anti-Semitism. A TikTok of Economics Minister Orda Barbrave, Jesus, these names are not helping me out here, throwing a carton of Ben & Jerry's into the trash was shared online. So basically, there's been like a political crisis unfolding between Israel and Jerusalem, or not Israel and Jerusalem, but Israel and Palestine for decades, right? And it's honestly a pretty scary situation. Like, I feel like that is kind of one of the hot spots for a potential global war to break out. Because, like, one wrong move and, like, the Middle East can really just plunge into chaos. I mean, many of the Arab states in the Middle East already don't like Israel, and they see them as, like, aggressors and see them as if, like, they are occupying stolen land. And that's also kind of the same message sent out by Ben & Jerry's. That's kind of what this whole thing is really kind of bubbling up around. So Ben & Jerry's, I guess, has been selling ice cream all this time, but they're now saying that they don't want to support Israel's occupation of Palestine. And so by doing that, they're going to stop selling their products in these occupied territories, which has led Israel to kind of hit back. Now, the thing is Israel isn't just hitting back with tweets. Israel is actually trying to harm Ben & Jerry's because of this. They actually want something to be done. And they're trying to go for the money, man. Like, they're really trying to affect them. I mean, I'm going to go ahead and assume that they're going to be losing a little bit of money anyway because they are taking their products out of a market. I'm not sure if Ben & Jerry's was, like, you know, wildly popular in these places or anything like that. But, I mean, they are taking their products out of a market that they could be selling in, so I'm going to assume that they are going to lose some money from that, but more than just words and symbolic gestures, Israel is also already flexing its diplomatic muscles against the move. Gilad Erdan, Israel's ambassador to the United States, tweeted that he had written to 35 governors of U.S. states that have legislation against the boycott of Israel, calling on them to impose sanctions against Ben & Jerry's. We view this decision very severely as it is the de facto adoption of anti-Semitic practices in advancement of the delegitimization of the Jewish state and the dehumanization of the Jewish people, he wrote in the letter, according to a photo he posted on Twitter. Ben & Jerry's and its parent company Unilever did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Israel takes a tough stand against people or organizations seen to support the pro-Palestinian BDS movement, which supports boycott, divestment, and sanctions against Israeli institutions and businesses. The movement says that it aims to economically and politically pressure Israel to comply with international law and works to end international support for Israel's oppression of the Palestinians. But Israeli officials say the movement is anti-Semitic and seeks to delegitimize or even destroy the country. Under Israeli law, supporters of the movement can be denied entry into Israel. So Israel is actually trying to take legitimate action against Ben & Jerry's through the United States, basically. So if you didn't know, the US and Israel are very close allies of one another. And the United States, in a way, supports Israel just ridiculously. I mean, it gets to the point where, like, we send them a lot of money. We pretty much back them in just about everything that they do. It doesn't really matter what it is. Like, the United States is very pro-Israel. They are very pro-US. And so in this move, they are basically asking for US states to put sanctions down on Ben & Jerry, which could affect, obviously, their revenue and their business operation. Ben & Jerry's could lose a lot of money, they could lose a lot of business, and this could end up being something that actually damages them way farther than they thought it ever would have. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't know if Ben & Jerry's is trying to destroy Israel. You know what I'm saying? Like, in all reality, I don't see what this one company deciding not to sell their products in Israel is really going to do. I mean, this is something that even the UN can't figure out, right? Like, the largest governing body or whatever on Earth can't even figure out how to handle this crisis. I'm pretty sure it's not going to be solved by an ice cream company. I mean, yeah, who doesn't really love ice cream except for people who are lactose intolerant? But at the same time, right, like, I don't think ice cream is going to be enough to make Israel be like, oh, you know what, actually, we're going to go ahead and pack up and leave these areas, right? I mean, Israelis have literally been killed for this shit, right? And they have not decided at any point that they are going to back down from their position. I'm pretty sure the absence of a pint of ice cream at the gas station is not going to be enough, really, to make them reconsider their beliefs. And honestly, I'm not totally sure that that's really what Ben & Jerry's is wanting to do. I kind of see this more as like a PR win for them, right? Because the public stance on Israel has been, I think, kind of shifting when it comes down to this specific subject, right? I feel like a lot more people globally, now that they're kind of, you know, seeing the whole Israel-Palestine conflict once again, like, a lot of people are actually turning to support Palestine this time around. Like, I feel in the past that Israel was a lot more supported, especially here in the United States, but then on, like, social media when the whole Israel versus Palestine thing just happened, it seemed like a lot more people than I expected were really kind of, like, pro-Palestine in that whole thing. And I mean, your beliefs on that can really be whatever, I really don't care. But I'm just pretty certain that Ben & Jerry's is going to be seeing this as a PR win, because, you know, if that is kind of the case and most people do support Palestinians, this is almost like a political marketing tactic to them. Because, like, if they really cared about these things, why did it take so long for them to make this decision, right? It's not like Israel and Palestine just started fighting last week. This has been something that's been going on for decades. These people have literally fought wars before with one another. It's not like this is something brand new. So it's like, if they really did care this deeply about this subject, why did it take so long for them to act? In fact, they aren't even the first company to do something like this. So Ben & Jerry's did not say in its statement that it supported BDS, but its decision was widely seen by Israel watchers and some Jewish groups as a win for the movement. It is not the first time a company has tried to stop doing business in the occupied territories. In 2018, Airbnb announced that it would stop advertising properties in Israeli settlements. Several months later, after coming under harsh criticism from Israel and a federal lawsuit by Israeli Americans who owned property in the settlements, the company reversed its decision. So Airbnb seems to be the first and the last company to try and do something like this, and it did not work out well for them. Of course, that was in real estate where, like, the laws are a little bit different than just selling fucking ice cream, but who really knows if this is going to actually work, right? Like, obviously, I don't think Israel is going to shut down as a country tomorrow because, you know, Ben & Jerry's Half-Baked is no longer an option. But when it comes down to it, like, will these actually end up doing something in terms of, like, these sanctions that are being proposed to these U.S. governors? Will the U.S. government get involved in any way? Who really knows? I mean, at the end of the day, man, it's just a really weird situation, right? Seeing a whole fucking country beef with an ice cream company and legitimately trying to harm one another, it's pretty psychotic. But anyways, with that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like. Subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel. Follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at @SubToOptimus. Make sure to check out Shop Opti down below. And until my next video, guys, this is Optimus. Well, actually, probably going to go eat some ice cream now. And signing out.